Welcome to Masters of Max, a mobile app experience podcast. Please welcome your host, Tom Buda, Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer at Airship.
Welcome to another episode of Masters of Max. Today, I have the extreme pleasure of speaking with Michael Kassan, who is founder, chairman, and CEO of MediaLink, which is a part of a really interesting talent agency called United Talent Agency.
Tom, thank you, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
I know the show is called Masters of Max, but I think in your case, I would say you're a master of many things. You spend an awful lot of time with executives at brand companies across many different industries. And I guess one of the fundamental questions I have for you is, what does the CEO not know about the CMO?
Tom, it's such a provocative question, because it just conjures up so many different visions for me. I hearken back to couples in a relationship, and sometimes I say, the other person doesn't understand me. And I throw that question out a lot to other CEOs. And what you've seen over the last many years is, it's no longer just chief marketing officer. It's usually chief marketing officer, chief marketing and growth, chief marketing and communications, chief marketing and product. Do you know the greatest cause of ulcers in business? It's granting somebody the responsibility to do a certain task, but not giving them the authority to do it.
I feel like you're playing back my life.
I think part of it is the narrative hasn't changed in reality, but the facts have. So what I mean by that is, traditionally, I guess you'd look at a chief marketing officer as somebody who could, work with your agency partners, whatever, to create great, storyboards and great advertising, and hopefully have the right sensibility as to how that advertising shows up in the right medium, the right way. What we saw happen about 10 years ago, and we saw this first with Unilever, and we saw it with Coca-Cola, and then it really came to life with Salesforce when Mark Benioff began to launch the Marketing Cloud, was the role of the CMO and the role of the CTO were starting to converge. Chief marketing officers necessitate more technology decisions than ever before, and chief technology officers need to make more marketing decisions than ever before. So to put a fine point on it, the person with the pocket square and the person with the pocket protector actually had to have the same pockets.
If you go back to one of your earlier points about hands-on lever, a lot of that growth today is accelerated and enabled through the use of technology. In that regard, then, how can the CMO, with all of these responsibilities but not necessarily the authority, how can they influence people that, in fact, have authority?
Tom, I think it's about storytelling. We tell stories. It gets our product or service sold in. But that's the same thing internally. If you need to make the case to your leadership, to your finance teams, so the marketing group is put through a lot more scrutiny through procurement and finance, and that gets us into a whole different side of the world, which is, measurement. Measurement's not only important because you should know what you're getting, it's important for the justification on the other end to be able to get the budget to spend.
Let's just dig into that if we could, because at the end of the day, I think what we're talking about is the under the conditions, especially that we're in today, which is there's a lot of uncertainty, right? How have you seen successful CMOs position for and demonstrate value?
It goes to results. How are my sales? The elements of how you get there, I think, have changed. There's a realization today internally that things that you would think wouldn't actually have direct impact on your revenue generation actually do. One of them is organization. We do so many wholesale reorganizations. We've gone into organizations where they have a marketing services unit of 4,200 people. And they had relationships with literally north of 900 agencies. And they wondered why they weren't as efficient in their marketing. Another case study, we identified that a piece of creative in the film business, from green light to red carpet, we found that 438 hands, people, individuals, touched that piece of creative. And I just kind of put my hands up and said, well, there's your answer. Maybe there's a way that only 200 people can touch it, and I bet you'll cut that continuum in half. So it's basic stuff like that, the blocking and tackling.
So let me ask a question then. We have a mutual friend who has the title of Chief Marketing and Chief Customer Experience Officer, which I think is wonderful for a massively global brand. What do you think about that? Do you think the CMO should own experience?
I think it's definitive that the CMO should own it, because I think that is part of that flywheel of what I think a marketer should be looking at, the experience your customer is going to have.
Right. So let me take that down a little bit of a path here. I think you agree that we all live our lives basically inside of this phone, all day, every day, and yet the CMO has to work across what I call platforms. So maybe mobile's a platform, a store or venues are platforms, right? The website is a platform. The mobile app inside the phone is a platform. How do you work across those?
Yeah, it's interesting. Here I can be specific. In work we've done for the Walt Disney Company, without breaching any confidence, the holy grail for the Walt Disney Company was to find the way to communicate with Michael Kassan across all the touch points with the Walt Disney Company. Theme parks, movies, television, streaming, consumer products, cruise lines, hotels. If I'm interacting with the Walt Disney Company across all those places within their family, the holy grail for them is make sure you're reaching me the right way across all of those, and don't bother me with 10 different messages, because that'll drive me crazy.
What they're doing is that they're creating this unified experience for you.
Exactly. It's great that we all want the right. However, we can't lose sight of the fact that we're in the business of marketing. And in marketing, sometimes you want surprise and delight, and sometimes you want serendipity. In fact, you always want serendipity.
This is a broad question, but are there any trends you're particularly fascinated by that may be coming from one industry that should be applied to another?
I'll give you a case study. Kevin Hart happens to be one of our clients, okay? And Kevin has been the primary spokesperson for Chase for 5-6 years. He's also one of the funniest, most creative people you're ever going to meet. So is there a need for an advertising agency, or should Kevin be able to be doing the creative and being in front of the camera, behind the camera, the full thing? So that's a big difference in talent today and what they're looking for. I think we are finally at a time where the ability to have brands more involved in the creation of content, not just commercial messages, but the actual IP, and actually creating content in partnership with the creative community, with the creator economy, is really finally here. So if I'm Unilever, and Dove, which I think is one of the great campaigns of this generation, the campaign for Real Beauty, which impacted not just growing the Dove brand dramatically, but impacted pop culture. You wouldn't need a lot of product placement to tell a story that could communicate the brand values of Dove. It's not product placement. It's not product integration. It's more than brand integration. It's content being used to drive commerce. And that's a big change. Coca-Cola, we're going to teach the world to sing. That wasn't a commercial for Coca-Cola. That was a whole different, that was a movement.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much for your time today. It's great to have another good chat, as it were. We really appreciate your insights.
Well, Tom, this was a really enjoyable hour for me, and I hope the listeners learn a thing or two, or at least get a laugh.